I think what we've seen is that Said was really not happy about the statement that came out following Barbara Leaf's visit. And if you look at the readout from the Tunisian side, it's very different from that of the US side. Said said he rejected US interference in Tunisia's affairs, he affirmed Tunisian sovereignty, and he pushed back against a variety of US statements that have been critical of his actions. So, what we can see is that clearly Said is paying attention to what US officials have to say. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he is being swayed by US pressure. I think these engagements are really important for Said to realize that the international community is paying attention to what he does, but we shouldn't expect them to have a major impact on his behavior or change the path that he's taking the country on right now.
Meanwhile, the Tunisian opposition accused President Kais Saied of pledging the country's sovereignty to the IMF and attempting to involve Tunisia in regional conflicts in reference to his recent reception of the leader of the Polisario Front, Ibrahim Ghali, which caused a diplomatic crisis with Morocco. What's your take on that?
So I think on the IMF deal, this is really nothing new. For the entirety of Tunisia's transition, we have seen major societal cleavages over the proposed IMF reforms, with some parties on the left and the unions rejecting the reforms and other parties accepting them and encouraging them. So Said is in a really difficult position because he needs the IMF deal, both for the support it would provide, but also to help unlock additional international financing. But he also needs the support of the union and the public as pushback against him and his actions has been growing, and he really is hemorrhaging support. So the crisis with Morocco is not coming at a very good time for him. He's been cozying up to Algeria, and Algeria has been one of the most vocal supporters of Said's actions and one of the only countries to actually give some support to Tunisia during this last year. So it's not really surprising that Tunisia could end up in hot water with Morocco over its growing closeness to Algeria. But this particular crisis and allowing Ghali to have a seat at this conference and to play the role of sort of a leader of an independent state has upset not only Morocco, but also many Tunisians, and is just an unnecessary complication for Said at what is already a very difficult time for him.
Political parties in Tunisia warned on Monday that the country is facing imminent collapse and chaos, and in a joint statement, they said that the government of President Kais Saied is unable and unqualified to face challenges, and according to the parties, Saied alone is responsible for the consequences of imminent collapse and chaos in light of his inability to lead a salvation mission. What could that lead to in Tunisia?
I think this is one more signal that Said no longer represents the will of the people, as he claims. He has had sole control over the country for a year, and he's failed to implement any sort of policies or reforms to assist Tunisia in addressing its economic and social crises. So what we could see coming out of this is further clashes, whether that's protests, sit-ins, other forms of nonviolent resistance against Said by the public, who is growing increasingly wary of what he is doing and increasingly impatient at his inability to deliver. But the real question, I think, is how does he respond to these public displays of satisfaction? Does he allow peaceful protests, or does he push back violently, as he has done sometimes in the past, leading to further chaos? And I think Tunisia is really at this critical point right now. We're not sure which direction the country is going to go.